Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into one single ancient word. Now, this is a word you probably think you know, but I promise you, by looking at it in a totally new way, we're going to uncover a key to understanding why we suffer. So, I want you to just hold this question in your head for a bit. What if the real problem isn't something that we are, but something that we're actively doing? It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. Let's get into it. All right, so to really get why this new perspective is such a game changer, we first have to understand the conventional wisdom. The way this word has been translated for, well, a very long time. Okay, the word is avijjā. And if you pick up pretty much any translation of the early texts, you'll see it defined as ignorance, plain and simple. The idea is that it's just a lack of information, an absence of knowing how things really are. And make no mistake, according to these ancient writings, this is a huge deal. This so-called ignorance isn't just a small blind spot. It's like a shroud, a heavy veil that's covering the entire world, keeping us from seeing anything clearly. Yeah, think of it like a really thick fog. It's positioned as the number one obstacle, the biggest thing getting in the way of the truth, and it's what keeps us just sort of stumbling around in the dark. Now, that's the standard view, but it's really only half the story. So, let's pull that shroud back, shall we? Let's go deeper than just ignorance and actually look at what this word is made of, what it's really telling us. So, is it really just a passive thing, like an empty box waiting for knowledge to be put inside? Or is there an active process happening here? To figure that out, we have to do a little bit of what you might call linguistic archaeology. Using a cool analytical method from the texts themselves called niruti, we can break avijjā into two parts. So first up, you have the prefix a, which is a pretty straightforward negative. It just means not. But the second part, vijjā. Now, this comes from the root word vid, which means to see or to know. So when you put those two pieces back together, the meaning completely transforms. It's not just ignorance, a passive state. It's not seeing, an active, deliberate process. This changes everything. The problem isn't that we're missing information. It's that we are actively choosing to look away. Okay, so if this is an action, what does that actually look like in the real world? How does this not seeing show up? Well, it's funny you should ask, because the texts give us this absolutely fascinating related concept. The term is tirachonavijja. Now, traditionally, this gets translated as animal knowledge or base knowledge, which kind of makes it sound primitive or, something lowly. But then you look at the examples they give, and it's things like fortune-telling, reading omens, astrology. I mean, these are complex systems for trying to figure out the world. They require a ton of brain power. They're definitely not base or animal-like. So what is really going on here? And here is the big twist. The root word, tirachana, it doesn't mean animal. It means sideways, horizontal. Suddenly, the whole concept clicks into place. This isn't about lowly knowledge. It's about sideways knowledge. It's all that intellectual activity that doesn't actually move you forward. This just illustrates the difference perfectly. The real path, the path of vijjā or clear seeing, is about progress. It's about moving forward. Sideways knowledge, on the other hand, is just motion without progress. You're busy, for sure, but you're not going anywhere. Think about it. Endlessly scrolling your social media feed, or spending weeks planning something you never do, or intellectualizing your feelings instead of just feeling them. You're just spinning in circles. So how does this one single action cause so much trouble? Because this act of not seeing isn't a one-off thing. It's the very first domino in a massive chain reaction that literally builds our entire reality of suffering. Now, this chain is one of the absolute core teachings of early Buddhism. It's called paticca-samuppada, or dependent origination. And guess what the very first link in that long chain is? You got it, avijjā, the act of not seeing. So it goes like this. Because we actively not see reality as it is, we start making up our own versions of it. These are called fabrications. These made-up stories then shape our consciousness, which in turn shapes how we experience the world, which then leads to craving and clinging, and you guessed it, the whole shebang of suffering. It all kicks off with that one choice to look away. I mean, you can't get much more direct than this. The texts are crystal clear. The arising of this one thing, not seeing, leads to the arising of everything we call suffering. And when not seeing stops,
suffering stops. It is the absolute linchpin.
And that, right there, brings us to the solution. Because if the problem is an active process of not seeing, well, then the solution has to be its direct opposite, an active process of clear seeing.
So the goal isn't to cram our heads with more facts to fill some kind of void of ignorance. No, the goal is simply to stop the act of not seeing. It's about turning towards reality, not some big abstract idea, but the direct and, yes, sometimes uncomfortable truth of what's happening right here, right now. That's how we allow for Avijjā, or clear seeing, to happen.
The path, then, is about abandoning one action and cultivating another. This is a practice. It's about choosing to pay attention to what's difficult, to be present with our thoughts without getting totally lost in them. It's the hard work of removing the thing that's in the way, so that what has always been there can finally be seen. And the texts give us this absolutely beautiful image for what that clarity is like. It's not about creating something new. It's just about letting the waters of the mind settle. And when they do, we can see our own thoughts, our feelings, and the world around us with that same quiet clarity, just seeing things exactly as they are. Which brings us right back to where we started. If the root of suffering is an action we take, not just some state we're stuck in, then the power to change things is right here in our hands. So the real question isn't what you don't know. It's this: what are you actively choosing not to see?